It's finally finished, but we're still stuck in supernatural purgatory. This podcast is a rewatch of all 15 seasons, and hopefully our way to finally escape this show.
Join us once a week for a fun, informal discussion on each episode, and leave comments on any specific upcoming plot points that you'd like us to discuss. Hi!
Huzzah!
Yeah.
We're back again.
Woo! So this week we're on episode 9 of season 1, Home. Originally was known as The Journey Home in the promo material, but I think it's been commonly known as Home now.
Nice.
So, yeah. Going into this, I read the synopsis, so I kind of knew what it would be about. I cheated a little bit.
That's not allowed.
But I kind of knew I think it was going to be a bit more of an emotional episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's rated 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb, so probably the highest rated episode we've watched so far.
Yeah.
The director was Ken Girotti, and the writer was just Eric Kripke on this one, which makes sense because it's kind of a main plot episode.
Yeah. But so I wasn't paying attention when I was first watching the episode, so usually I try to see, like, as the credits come up, like, who wrote the episode and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all I saw was created by Eric Kripke, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So looking back, I was like, oh, okay. It was just him on this one. I did not cheat, and I kind of I knew what the episode was going to be, but there are elements of it that I'd forgotten. So it was kind of nice to, like, not know what's going to happen, I guess, but still see it from, like, hindsight, I guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying watching this now with all the, what did we say, curse of knowledge that we have, especially this episode, I think.
Yes. There's a couple moments in there that we'll get to that. Well, for me anyway. Yes. I don't know about for
myself. I'll be honest. I watched this episode in maybe 3 parts, all during the same day. But there were a couple times where I was just like, I don't know. I just have to walk away from this for a second. I don't know what was wrong with me. I guess I was having a very emotional day. But I was just like, I can't watch this all the way through in one sitting. I don't know what's wrong. I have, as they say, supernatural brain rot. Yeah, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really good episode. So I think let's get into it.
I think so too. We start at Lawrence, Kansas, and so just a little bit of I said I know we're gonna start.
Yeah.
Can you imagine had they stayed in Kansas and, like, none of this stuff happened?
Yeah.
Like, Sam and Dean would have had Midwestern accents, or Kansas. I don't know what we're Batholians. I don't know what Kansas people, what their thing is. A Kansas accent. I can't imagine it, especially since, like, if you listen to John's accent,
yeah,
and obviously both of theirs, they're generic American, but they definitely have, like, a southern, more, like, Texas twang sometimes.
Yeah,
as we know, they're both from Texas, so that's why that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where Jeffrey Dean Morgan's from though.
I'm not sure.
So, but I'm just trying to think, like, I don't know what a Kansas accent sounds like because I don't know anybody from Kansas.
Yeah.
And also, this is a side point, complete side point. Why is it Arkansas even though it's AR in front of Kansas? Why isn't it Arkansas? I know it's probably like a French thing because it's like where Louisiana used to be a massive place, and that was part of it. So it's just a side rant. Anyway, going back into it. We're back in Lawrence, Kansas, and we see a woman looking through, like, her wedding pictures. She's clearly unpacking this house.
Yeah.
And her daughter comes down and is like, "There's a monster in my closet." interrupting this mother getting emotional. We don't know what's happened to her husband. Like, we don't know
Mhm.
if, it's clear that something's happened because, she's, crying a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
And so the music in this episode, I don't feel like I don't feel like there was many actual songs in this episode. Did you notice any?
No, I didn't. I didn't clock it at all, to be
Okay.
fair. Like any songs. Maybe there was one at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I didn't clock any. Even like atmospheric music in this, I didn't really clock.
Really? So I did.
Yeah.
There was something that was really it didn't kind of sit right for some reason, because this whole next sequence of the reason why you know that it's upsetting is because this string melody is all very soft and is very typical. This is a sad moment, and it kind of continues as she puts her child back to bed and tells her that there's no monsters in the closet and stuff like this. And in my mind, those two don't sync up just because of what's happening. I mean, it does then turn sinister for when they kind of block the view of as if someone is in the closet and watching them. So it does turn a little bit sinister there, but it still doesn't feel quite synced. I think that's why it stood out to me. But throughout this whole episode, it is very much it's sad, typical sad, original soundtrack music. So.
Yeah. So at the end of the last episode that we watched, Bugs, I didn't really mention it, but as they're having that conversation, in the last scene, talking, leaning on the Impala, definitely, Sam's theme, I guess, kind of plays through that, and I think maybe I heard it in this episode a bit more as well, because that kind of carried through. But yeah, it was much more muted than it normally is. I would say that's the point that I was more listening to what was going on in the scene rather than listening to the music, whereas sometimes you do kind of listen to, especially the classic rock songs and stuff, you pick up on them way more.
Yeah. So she puts her kid back to bed. Yeah. And she goes back downstairs and continues unpacking her boxes and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting at this point, so I wrote here, why are you unpacking with a single lamp? But that kind of gets answered a little bit later in the episode, because it is very strange. You're sat basically in the dark unpacking your boxes, and it's just that's weird. But she hears these kind of scratching noises on the floor, and she's like, "Oh no, please don't let it be rats." So she goes down into the basement. Obviously, this is Kansas, so all of the houses have basements.
I didn't even think of that. Tornadoes and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
And then we go up to the child's room, and all the creepy stuff starts happening.
Yeah, so her daughter had asked her to put a chair in front of the closet because she was scared of what's going to come out. So her mum did, I guess, to get her to go to bed.
Yeah.
And we see the chair start moving. I don't like it.
It definitely had the feel of Poltergeist for sure.
Yeah, this whole episode was based very much, I think, a lot of the kind of especially the hauntings and stuff that were happening, very much on the movie Poltergeist. Yeah. I've only watched that once when I was really young. I don't know why I was watching it when I was really young.
Me neither. It's one of those movies you shouldn't be watching. Yeah. And it's going to scare you forever. And I still watched it, and I can't watch ghost movies now because of that. So
it didn't bother me too much. It really reminds, I don't know why, but I always equate Poltergeist with the Twilight Zone. I don't know if the feel of it is slightly similar, but mostly I remember the scene with the TV from Poltergeist, which I guess wasn't mirrored here, but there are other bits that are.
Also, the thing I remember from Poltergeist is that bloomin' clown toy.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh no, I do. Yeah. Thanks. Flashback.
So the chair starts moving, and it's not just moving though. It's scraping along the floor, moving as if something sat on it. It's no, if you're gonna move the chair, just move it gently, please.
I mean, the kid has a completely like understandable reaction. If I was in bed and something like that were happening, I wouldn't move either. I'd be watching it like, no, this isn't happening. I'm just gonna.
Right.
I don't know. I'm having some weird like dream hallucination. I'm gonna go back to sleep.
That's very true. We then cut back down to cut to the mother who found a chest. And she opens it up and it's got some pictures in it, and we can see from the pictures that it's the Winchester family. She flips it over and says like John, Mary, Dean, and little Sammy.
Oh yeah. So I was keeping an eye on this stuff. So yeah, there was a picture of John. There's a picture of John and Mary, and then there was one of the family together that she found. So ooh. And then yeah, it cuts back upstairs. The closet's opening, and there's a fire starting in the closet, and it's cool. Like it doesn't look like the closet's on fire. It looks like the fire is in it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like sentient fire.
It kind of looks like so if you took out Mary from where she was burning on the ceiling, and like Jessica where it looks exactly like that. It looks like that, like I guess it's like a billowing fire.
Yeah, that's a good word, billowing. I like that. Rippling.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has a fire, like a name, but people don't know. Yeah.
No. It looks like fire that's on the top of the ceiling and that's curling around on itself, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
At least according to movies, because I've never actually seen a real life fire, fortunately.
Oh.
And then we get a kid monster scream. Obviously,
yes.
Like, I mean, yeah, that's a very appropriate response. Your closet's on fire. You're gonna be screaming, especially a child.
Exactly, and that's the introduction. So after that, we get the title card. One thing I did notice about this episode was the I want to say road so far, but it's not, is it? It's a previously on. It was different for this episode, right? To set this up.
Yeah. And like, so obviously I'm watching it on Netflix, and usually what happens is that it will automatically cut the recap.
Yeah.
But this one actually started at the very, very beginning of the episode. Ooh. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
To remind you what had occurred.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the title card, it cuts and we see like a woman screaming in an upstairs window of a house, and there's like a creepy tree outside. But just as it happened in about 2 or 3 other episodes now, it's just Sam having a dream. They're in a motel room, and Sam's like sketching this tree in his notepad, and he's kind of sketched it a few times, and he's like comparing the drawings. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if he's had this dream a few times now, and maybe drawn the tree each time, and he's comparing to see if they're the same each time he drew them.
I'm gonna guess that's probably a good idea. I was wondering why he kept drawing it. Like, are you trying to get it right? Like, can you see it in your mind's eye? And can't quite, but I guess it is the same thing over and over again. I did make a note here that, like, I don't know, there's something about like a black hairband or wristband. I on his arm, just I don't know, it looked very good. I was like. A little bit of arm porn there, I guess.
That's your like 2005 teenager speaking, where all the boys wear armbands.
I think so. Well, so now it's like, so I used to be a school photographer. Like, I used to go in and take the yearbook pictures.
Yeah.
And in middle school and high school now, it's like you wear scrunchies of the girl that you like. So it's really weird. Or the girl gives you her scrunchie.
I don't know why, but I just think that's super cute.
It is adorable, but it's like, I guess it's better than the black wristband.
Yeah. So like Sam's sketching, and Dean is sat like looking for a case. He's drinking coffee, and he mentions a few possible cases. So one of the ones he mentions is a fishing trawler off the coast of California. And while I was doing research into this episode, someone suggested that maybe this could be related to Benny somehow, because they were a nest of vampires, like working off the coast of California. Oh. Obviously, like, I don't know if they were clever enough.
No, they weren't.
Tie it to this one moment in an episode. So I'm thinking probably not, but like, shout out to the person who made that connection, because it's, you're thinking too much about it, which I really appreciate.
I mean, like, you got to imagine how many boats, like, go off missing off the coast of California.
Yeah.
California is, like, hundreds of miles long.
But I thought that was a unique connection, and
it is.
I'm going to say it's canon. I've decided. So that's
we are official canon makers, and this is one of them.
Some of the other ones he mentioned some cattle mutilations in West Texas, which I guess we know kind of now is related to demons and things. And then there were a couple of others, but like Sam is involved in drawing this tree, and he suddenly gets like a eureka moment and sort of jumps up and grabs John's journal. It's like, I've seen this tree before. Which I don't know how you recognize a tree, but I guess it kind of is a distinctive shape, sure.
Yeah, and I guess, like, I mean, I don't know how sentimental they are. He may actually be, like, he might look at that picture kind of often.
That's true.
Especially since it's in the front of the journal, and, like, he has to flip it open and see it there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So when he opens John's journal, you can see all his, like, I guess they're medals and things from when he was a Marine, which I don't know has been seen before. But they also mention it again in this episode, so I don't know if that's where they decided. But the picture that he has as well is the exact same picture as the one that the woman found in the box in the house.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was the same one. I'm glad that like you mentioned that. That's
I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, yes, I guess so. When you used to have print film, you would get multiple copies of things that you really, really wanted.
That's true.
So, it's nice.
I mean, it kind of makes sense that they might have, like... So we learn also where John used to work, so maybe he kept a copy at work.
Yeah.
And one at home, so it may not actually be that unusual. I guess the only thing that's unusual is, like, I guess whoever packed up the house maybe just, like, put it in there. Because there's no, like... Well, I guess we'll get into it a little bit later, but it's... Yeah, someone must have packed up that house.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, so, I mean, Sam says they need to go back home, because and he says, like, they rebuilt the house, but after the fire, but, like, Sam's not really giving Dean, like, a good reason at this point, and like, Dean really has to, like, pull it out of him.
Mm-hmm.
So he eventually tells him the thing that we've known for a few episodes, that Sam was having, like, sort of visions of Jessica dying before she died. So he's been having dreams about things that are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Which we were saying, like, before, like, why not just just tell him? Like, it would have solved so many problems. And, like, when you got to this point, it would have been easier to convince him.
Right, and also, so this is, like... So it's kind of... Dean's reaction to this... Had this been, like, season 3 or 4, this would have been very different. Because he at this point, we haven't really had any connections with, like, witches or psychics or anything like that. It's all been, like, other types of monsters.
Yeah.
So, like, I know this is a couple weeks ago now, I think, where we're talking about the seeing versus knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Dean knows that there's, like, all these crazy things out here, but, like, never have they interacted with a witch or something like something of that nature. So I guess it's, hearing that for the first time, you would freak out, and rightly so.
Yeah, exactly. He does kind of freak out, but I feel like in this moment he is freaking out more about the thought of having to go back home.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, first you tell me that you've got the Shining, and then you tell me that I've got to go back home. Especially when what? When I swore to myself that I would never go back there?
We're both making the same kind of, like, speechlessness. Because like, switching to actors' names, but Jensen is so good in this.
It's
like,
so good.
You can feel the anguish of him not wanting to go back to this house. And I was just like, oh no.
It's just like an immediate switch. Like Sam says, like, you have to go home, and he's just like, what? And you're like, oh no.
Yeah. It's like you couldn't, even though you don't see the blood drain from his face, you can imagine that that's exactly what just happened. Like, he just went straight into fight or flight.
Yeah. He's such a good actor, sorry.
And this episode really showed, like,
yeah.
Again, really showed this, which is so strange because, like, you know, what episode was it? Hookman.
Yeah.
Like, he was completely different than he is now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he had those weird kind of, like, I think he said something about sorority girls in that episode, and it feels like so far removed from this moment.
Yeah.
And that was only 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a little bit flip floppy, but not necessarily in a bad way.
No. It's just a very fully fleshed out character.
Yeah.
Like, I've always said that, like, Dean Winchester feels like a real person, and I think it's these moments that really do make you feel that. Yeah.
So another thing about this scene, I'm not sure why, but, like, doesn't Sam look incredible? I guess Jared look incredibly young in this.
Yes,
there's something about it that, like, maybe they, like, did a closer shave, or, like, maybe the hairstyling or something, but, like, he looked like 18 in my mind. Like, he did not look like he was in his early 20s at this point.
I think it's the styling, because normally he's wearing, like, a hoodie and a jacket, whereas in this scene he's wearing just, like, a long sleeve shirt. And I don't know what it is, but I always think long sleeve shirts maybe age people down slightly. But I think that's it, sort of maybe seeing him with less layers on and maybe a bit, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, he seems really sort of, like, fresh and innocent almost.
So was the thing that actually brought it more to my attention was actually a close-up of his face. That like, that's what made me think about it, was that made me think he looked really young.
Yeah.
But it could also be, like, the combination of everything.
I mean, through the seasons, I mean, Sam, I guess, / Jared kind of goes through the biggest, like, he looks really different in, say, season 15 than he does in season 1.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like Dean, he's comparable. Like, he looks, like, you can see he looks almost the same. But yeah, no, I agree with you. He looks really young in this scene. Right, we'll move on. So they have this conversation about going back home, and then the next scene is them kind of driving and then actually pulling up to the house and kind of looking at it through the window. And I just wrote here, Dean's not okay.
You gonna be all right, man? Let me get back to you on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like,
and normally he would make a joke or something, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even not talking about it is a whole thing. So they walk up to this woman's house, and initially, like, Dean starts saying, like, we're a federal something. He never finishes that sentence because Sam actually stops him and introduces them as themselves and say, you know, oh, you know, we used to live here. Like, can we have a look around? Which, I've never had that happen when I've lived in a house. I have had people come round and say, like, oh, we're thinking of buying a house up the street, and like, we want to see what the layout looks like, so we can't get to that house and yours is similar, you know? Like, that's quite good. But yeah, I don't know. Would you let someone in who'd lived there previously?
No. Honestly, no. Like, the way I probably would have handled that conversation was like, oh yeah, well, I found a box of your things. Do you want it? Let me go get it for you. Like, yes. You have two, like, grown-ass men who just tell you that they're the Winchesters, which I'm pretty sure you can find out who the previous owners were of a house fairly easily, especially now. Like, it is very, very strange. But I don't know if that's strange because we're English, and like, so in my childhood home, like, my parents still own that house.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, like, and they've been there for over 30 years now.
Yeah.
So the previous owners, who knows where they are? I'm not sure. I think it was a family home before.
Mm-hmm.
So those people were probably even older than my parents.
Yeah.
And their kids are probably the age of my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it would just be strange for them to come back to the house.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like that's something that people do. But I know that a lot of people move a lot of times in America. It seems to be more than they do in England, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking maybe we're just not friendly enough. Maybe it's different in
there
Kansas.
That's true. Didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. So yeah, she lets them in. So we find out that so she's called. We find out her name later on, but it takes way too long, so I'll introduce her now. Her name is Jenny. She has 2 children. So she has her daughter, which we saw in the beginning, whose name is Sari, and her son, who's a toddler called Richie. And she's going to give them these photos, and they kind of ask her like, "Oh, is the house okay?" She's like, "No offense, but no, it's terrible." Basically.
And so I was really paying attention to Dean's face during all of this, because you could, again, this is testament to Jensen, like, he's just so uncomfortable, and like so hurt by everything that's going on in this house, like, that they see. It's just like, oh,
yeah, it's right in the chest. It hurts. Like, this was a tough episode. So she's saying that she's seen things like flickering lights. She thinks they maybe have rats in the basement, the sink's backed up, all these things, and they're kind of... Sam's really good here, actually. He's kind of probing her for more information about it. I think the only thing that's missing from their normal ghost questions are the cold spots, which usually comes up later on when they ask about ghosts, but we can pretty much... Well, I mean, we already know as a viewer that there's some kind of ghost, and this pretty much confirms there's something there. Mm-hmm. But then the daughter's like, yeah, and there's something on fire in my in my room. So the daughter Sari sort of says like, there's something in my closet and it's like scary, and kind of gives the game away, I guess. But it's good that she does. It gets it moving along a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think had she not mentioned that, Dean might not have actually gone along with this as much. Like, you can kind of see that, like, he thinks there might be something, but he's still a little bit skeptical.
Like, I wonder if maybe he would have thought to, because he must know other hunters. Maybe he would have thought at one point to bring another hunter in to deal with this, because he clearly doesn't want to do it, So they have a chat, and Sam really thinks this is linked to like Jessica and Mary.
I'm just freaked out that your weirdo visions are coming true.
Well, forget about that for a minute. The thing in the house, do you think it's the thing that killed Mom and Jessica?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, has it come back, or has it been there the whole time?
Or maybe it's something else entirely, Sam. We don't know yet.
Well, those people are in danger, Dean.
Like, he's fully on this bandwagon. And that it's maybe some kind of malevolent spirit. And I think he's hoping that this is going to solve everything, right? They've figured out what killed their mum. It's the same thing that killed Jessica. If they fight it here and now, done. He can go back to college.
Yep.
Whereas, like, I think, as you said, like, Dean's a bit more reluctant to go along with this, but I feel like he's doing it for Sam's sake here quite a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I mean, I think if he could have passed it on, like you said, he would have passed it on if he could. Yeah.
So they go to a gas station to fuel up the Impala and talk about things. And Dean even says, like, if this is any other job, what would we do?
And they go through the whole thing of just, like, breaking it down, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Of, like, they haven't really... In all the other episodes, they've sort of instinctively done everything. So it's kind of nice that they were like, okay, so this is our process. Like, we talk to the family, we talk to, other people. We find out the history of the house and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. When they're talking about the history, Sam asks Dean, like, well, what do you remember? And I think he says, he remembers fire and heat, and he remembers carrying Sam out.
I remember the fire, the heat. Then I carried you out the front door. You did?
And Sam says that he never knew about that.
Mm-hmm.
Why has that not come up before? I guess they don't talk about it. This is probably just don't ever talk about it.
I mean, that's probably very true.
Yeah,
It's
the repression.
Like, yeah, no, they don't talk about it. And we learn in this episode why they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's be yeah, we'll get to
Let's
that.
be real. Yeah. And they just said, like, well, what did Dad tell you? What did John tell you? And he's just said that he's only ever told Dean that he found Mary on the ceiling and that he doesn't know anything else about it. He hasn't told them anything else that he's found out or any kind of lines that he seems to be investigating, and it's very frustrating.
It is. Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't get better. It does not get better.
No. So they're going to go talk to their friends and neighbours, but before that, like, Dean says that he has to go to the bathroom, but he just walks around the back of the gas station and rings John.
I'm with Sam, and we're in Lawrence. And there's something in our old house. I don't know if it's the thing that killed Mom or not. But I don't know what to do. So, whatever you're doing, if you could get here, please. I need your help, Dad.
Look, this is where I had to take a break.
Yeah.
There's something about the way Dean says, like, I don't know what to do, that I've heard many times come out of his mouth. And the only thing I thought of when he was leaving this message for John was, oh, this is what Dean sounds like when he's praying.
Oh my God.
I wrote it, I circled it.
Yes.
I had a little cry about it.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh
true.
my
The
goodness.
way his like voice breaks when he says like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like he only says that when he's in really difficult situations. And it reminded me of a few prayer scenes that actually I'm not going to mention now because I just can't. And I think seeing this emotional side of Dean, again, I was saying it earlier, but it fleshes out his character.
Yeah.
He's not just like a happy-go-lucky playboy hunting monsters across the continent. No. He's like, yeah.
He's a real person who's like struggling.
Yeah.
Severely struggling.
So what did you think about this like voicemail scene?
It was difficult to watch. It really was, for sure. Because, for everything else, he's always so confident. He kind of knows where he's going. And then to suddenly stop and be like, I don't know what to do. I think he mentions that he has left messages before and he doesn't know if he's heard them. This is like a real plea. And, how many of those voicemails did he actually ask for direct help? Probably not many. They are probably more just like, hey, we're off fighting this thing, or we're in this place, like, let us know what's going on. Where are you, kind of thing, rather than like Dad, I need you. Like, that's, and I can't imagine, like, in their hunting days, how many times Dean has actually turned around and asked John for help.
Yeah, it can't be many.
No, and it was it was definitely difficult to see him basically break down. He completely broke down in this, and
and they're so young as well. Like, everyone's 20s are tough, right? but their 20s are particularly tough, and I feel like you don't really have a handle on yourself until you reach kind of 30s. I don't know. This is personal experience, but like And you do need that help from people, and they just don't have any. And it's, like I say, it's so hard to ask for him to ask for help as well. It's just, it's too much, Annabelle.
Yeah, it was a bit much, but it was so good too at the same time.
Good. It's so good. It reminds me why Supernatural is a good show.
Yes. For every Bugs episode, there's one like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And well, there's more than one like this, but there's yeah, no, it was definitely. Oy. Now that you mentioned it was like his prayer, I did not make that connection.
I'm so sorry for destroying you emotionally, but that's my job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad that I don't have to go back and watch it, because if I had to go back and watch it, I would definitely need a break for sure after watching that.
I think, anyway.
Oh yeah, no, it was. And so, though, again, we come back to this like keeping secrets thing, because why did he have to make that phone call without Sam?
Like, well, I guess it's, I don't know, is he not letting Sam see his because he's the bigger brother. I do get this. He's the older brother. He has to know how to deal with things for Sam's sake. So in this case where he doesn't, he can't let him see that, because then they are directionless, right?
Yeah.
I guess he's worried it would worry Sam if he doesn't know which direction to take on this case.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. You have to be like strong for other people. I mean, that's Dean's whole deal, right?
That is, I mean, yeah. This is, yeah.
Yeah. So following that very emotional scene is one that was super gross. And I didn't watch for different reasons. I was like, I knew where this was going. So Jenny's called a plumber to come check out the sink disposal, which, first of all, why America? Why have you got these in your house?
You know, that's a good question. I don't have one in mind, but I mean, it is kind of nice. I have to admit, it is kind of nice. Like, you don't have to worry. Like, you can throw stuff out and it won't like rot in your bin, so that's kind of nice.
It's called composting.
Yeah. This is also true. And we would probably be better for it, but that's I guess culture or whatever. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So I wouldn't ever have one of these because they seem like a liability. But to be fair to this plumber, when he is checking it, he does switch it on and off a few times to make sure that it's not working before he sticks his whole arm in there.
Yeah, but you don't stick your whole arm in there. Like, so how far his arm is, where he took out the pipe at the bottom, is where his hand would be. So I've seen in my brother's house, he's had to replace his because it got gunged up with like flour and stuff. It just, you're not supposed to put certain things down there, and things were put down there. And like, you can take that whole thing off with all the blades and everything without sticking your hand down it. So like, you would actually completely detach that whole section, like that whole like unit, and then inspect it, because I was just like, no.
I mean, there are a couple of things wrong here. Like, first of all, there was that creepy clapping monkey.
Yeah.
And then, like, sticking your whole hand into like a sink disposal thing, whatever it's called. Just why?
Yeah. No. Like, don't you have a tool for that? Like one of those, like, I don't know.
Stick a big spoon in there, like, wiggle it around. Don't put your hand in there.
And like, he lifts out. How many times do you have to put your hand in to realize there's nothing in there? Yeah. Like, he puts his hand in, pulls his hand out, and he's like, maybe. And then he puts his hand back in. It's like,
Yeah, it's gross. Anyway. Yeah. I guess I mean, what was the point of that scene other than to be gross, other than to say, well, this house is more haunted? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was... I wrote here, yep, that's what you get. It was not good. Ugh.
So after that, Sam and Dean go to an auto repair shop where John used to work, and they are interviewing his friend, and they're pretending that they're cops, working a cold case. I guess John's disappearance maybe was investigated, but I mean, the guy's acting like it possibly was. So it does. I think they could have got away with being themselves here as well, but maybe it would have asked more questions than the guy answered.
Yeah, especially because this is where we find out that basically John ups and left.
Yeah,
like he didn't tell anybody anything. He was there one day and was gone the next. So I think if they had said that, hey, we're John's kids, definitely there would be more questions of like, well, where did you go? What have you been doing? Like stuff that this is probably Dean's idea, because he probably doesn't actually want to get into like what's been going on with his life. Yeah.
I put that because I thought that actually Sam looks quite annoyed in this scene. So I think that it definitely was Dean's idea.
Yeah.
So talking to this guy, he explains quite a lot, but he mostly explains like John's mindset after the fire, which is really interesting to know, I think. So he does mention here again that he was a Marine, so this is becoming, canon now that John was in the Marines. But he said, oh yeah, he loved Mary and the kids. They never kind of figured out that what caused the fire, but John was kind of telling everyone that he thought that something had caused it. So he was clearly going around town, like kind of acting maybe,
erratic.
Yes, I think that's a good word about this. He does mention that he went to go see like palm readers and like psychics and mediums and things to try and get answers. So that kind of gives like Sam and Dean their next lead in this story.
So they go to like a public phone booth. It's not really a phone booth. It's like it's a phone booth without the booth. And they're like flicking through the psychic section, and we hear the name Missouri Mosley.
Yeah.
And I do like the line that is said.
First page, first sentence. Read that.
I went to Missouri, and I learned the truth.
I always thought he meant the state.
So that was really interesting that like without context, they still can misread the journal.
Yeah, that's a good point. So like, what other little clues are there where John's just being like obtuse? They go to Missouri's house, and the first introduction we get to her is there's a guy leaving, and she's like, "Oh no, it's fine. Your wife's like not cheating on you. Everything's fine." And then once he's left, she turns to us like, "Oh yeah, she's banging the gardener." Such a good introduction to the character. Like I don't know.
So I know. So you'd mentioned that we're going to meet Missouri in this episode.
Yeah.
Last time, and for some reason, I thought you meant the psychic who sees Cass in his true form.
Oh,
I thought it was that lady.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's this Missouri, not the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Because she's very funny. Like this was definitely a needed comedic like break from this really heavy episode.
Yeah.
Like she brings the comedic values back into the show in a way that's like not like I can't think of the word, but like in an uplifting way, I guess.
Yeah. She's great, and you're right. The episode needed Missouri to be there as kind of she takes the emotional element out of it and kind of tells it how it kind of says it what's actually going on without that kind of filter that they have over thinking it. So Missouri's played by a great actor called Loretta Devine, who's been in like loads of stuff. I was really surprised when you said, Annabelle, that she's only in this episode and one other episode, because I swear she was in more episodes than that of Supernatural. Like,
she made an impact.
That she was in more episodes.
I have thoughts and feelings about what happens to Miss Mosley here later on. I'm not sure if this is the right moment to talk about it, where we can get to the end.
We can bring it on later. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's fine. So she knows them. She says like, "Oh, hi, Sam and Dean."
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. And she kind of touches Sam on the arm and says like, "Oh, sorry about your girlfriend." So she's showing that she has some kind of like psychic connection. But she explains it that she reads energy and thoughts rather than like the future.
Yeah, she's like, I can't just pick out facts out of the thin air or something like that. It was the way that like she puts both of them in their places is very funny.
Oh, you boys grew up handsome. And you were one goofy looking kid too.
I did say here, I think she has big Bobby energy. Like the way she talks to Dean in particular is very Bobby Singer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Which makes sense because I believe, I've seen this in a couple of sources, but I don't know how true it is, that Loretta was originally signed up to be this kind of Bobby character, but left the show because she was going to go on to do Grey's Anatomy, which I feel like is probably a good choice in the long run.
Yeah, well, maybe.
but for her career.
Yeah, for her career, yeah. Sure.
But yes, I feel like they have a very similar, I don't know what it is. Like, she teases Dean quite a lot here, and I think he needs it to, especially in this episode, to like pull himself out of his funk.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting to go back to the Bobby thing, because it's kind of it is interesting because with how Bobby like kind of takes on this like father role, I guess. But I always these like other parental roles, they all seem to have this like they got to put Dean not down, but like they gotta be. I can't think of what the term is, but like with Sam, they're like super soft. Whereas with Dean, they're a bit harsher, and it's just like, Dean needs some love too.
I had the exact same thought while I was watching this. I was kind of like, I can see why she's. I kind of see why she's doing it, because I think Dean is very much in his head in this whole episode, whereas Sam's kind of working the case a bit more, and I get she kind of knows a bit more about what's going on with Sam, so maybe would be a bit more sympathetic. But yeah, there's no need to. People do it to Dean a lot, don't they? I don't know if you say like because of his like happy-go-lucky stuff. The person I don't feel like does this with Dean is Jodie. But yeah, you're right. Like, why? Come on. Give us some love. Sorry. Off topic.
So, she explains a little. So she takes them into like her sitting room area, and again, this is another thing of don't you dare put your feet up my coffee table, boy, kind of thing.
Boy, you put your foot on my coffee table, I'm gonna whack you with a spoon.
I didn't do anything.
Well, you were thinking about it.
Yeah.
Which, like, it was funny. And, like, Sam's smug face in the background was just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And so she explains, like, why John had come to her, and she says, I drew back the curtains for him. And I feel like this is a phrase that they start to use.
Yeah.
A little bit. Not a lot, but sometimes I feel like when they have to explain, like, what's going on in the supernatural world, or the paranormal world, they say that they're drawing back the curtains. I may be making that up, but I do feel like it's something that has been said before.
I mean, it's very like a spiritual thing, right? Isn't it? If you're having like a seance or something, you'd say like drawing back the veil or drawing back the curtain. So it's kind of like looking over to the other side. Yeah. I'm not sure how much it's used later on. It'd be interesting to keep an eye on it or an ear out for it, even. It's interesting that she seems to have been the one who kind of initiated John into the world of the supernatural. Because I guess there always has to be someone who does it for you.
This is true.
So, yeah.
This is very true.
Yeah.
And it's clear that she's a legit psychic or like someone who's in touch with the paranormal. So she does have the information to tell, like, because I'm sure he went to a whole bunch of other people and got the like charlatan routine,
Yeah.
and then to have this actual person who's able to actually explain a little bit of what could happen, because she does say that, you know, she went to the house and told him that something truly evil was in that house. I guess demons are not really a thing in this universe yet.
Oh,
like
well, no Phantom Traveler though.
Right, no, I meant like oh, but they do mention it, don't they?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, that's weird.
What's interesting in these early episodes is like how much does each individual person know of the whole of the lore of supernatural. So maybe she's aware of ghosts and spirits. I think maybe a little bit of witchcraft as well. But is she wise to say like demons or even like what monsters are out there? You know, like
yeah, that's true.
Like we were saying with whenever they seem to come across things that have been in the journal, we have to remember that this is just what John thinks about them, and sometimes it seems to have been like a little bit off or a little bit wrong.
This is true.
Yeah, so it's a really, really interesting like interaction they have with Missouri. I really like her introduction as a character and what she tells them. I think it's super pushing that main plot along.
Yeah, definitely, but not in like a overt way. It's definitely like a bit more subtle.
Yeah, it's got a light touch. It's good.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of like going back and forth in these next few scenes. So we go to the old house, and the mother's on the phone with an insurance company, and like, or I'm not. Yeah, it's an insurance company. It's kind of bizarre that she needs to have a lawyer for something that was an accident. Like, I don't know, that didn't quite sit. I don't know what the housing laws are and stuff. I live in an apartment, so it's going to be different. But like, surely that's why you have like homeowners insurance, and like why they have liability. Like the plumber has insurance to cover workplace accidents. Anyway, whatever. He did everything he was supposed to do, and it's still like, how is it her fault? But anyway, so she hears a noise coming from upstairs, and we see like she gets off the phone, and it pans down to, or tilts down to the toddler Richie in the playpen, and he's like asking for juice because apparently he's a juice addict. that's what she says at the beginning. Introducing her kids, and then we cut back to Missouri. And she's explaining that like it's bizarre that something's happening at this point, because this like she's been keeping track of this house to make sure nothing else is happening.
So like, why now? Why is it happening now? And Sam's like, well, maybe it's because of Jessica, you know. And John's disappearance.
Right. And I think Sam says something along the lines of, something is starting, and Dean's response is, well, that's comforting thought.
But Dad going missing and Jessica dying, and now this house, all happening at once, it just feels like something's starting.
That's a comforting thought.
Like, Dean really does not want to be in this situation at all.
Bless.
So then we go back to the old house, or the house, and the playpen is now open. Like, the one side of it is fallen down.
Yeah.
And the fridge is open. So the playpen opens, and the fridge opens, and he goes towards the fridge and climbs into the fridge.
Yeah.
And the fridge closes behind him, and like, she has a latch on it, I guess, to stop, you know, people, the kids getting into the fridge, and the latch does back up. Yeah, it's not good. But so, and she comes back down, and she's frantic because she sees that Richie is not in his playpen, and he's not anywhere to be seen, and she's running around. This next scene, I don't know if you noticed this, completely broke the tension for me. She turns around to the fridge, and the latch is undone.
Oh no, it broke the continuity.
Completely, because what she does too, she picks up the latch, puts it back in, and then opens it. as if obviously she noticed that in the previous take she'd left it undone.
Yeah.
So she tried to just put it back in and then open it again, and I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't notice it unless I'm bad for coming to the series, but like, yeah, they were taking me out of it. But...
Yeah, it took me out of it completely. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
At least
Anyway.
she saves her kid from the fridge. My goodness.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. Like
it's cold in those fridges.
It's cold.
It's like 5 degrees, right?
Well, even less than that sometimes.
Mm.
I don't know how much oxygen's actually in a fridge.
I feel like there was a whole thing, maybe in like the 50s or 60s, about kids getting in fridges. So when you disposed of fridges, you had to get rid of them in a certain way, like make sure the door was definitely closed, like taped up or something.
Or you had to remove the door.
Yeah, because they were worried that people would get inside them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you're Indiana Jones, like, why are you getting in a fridge?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there's a whole thing to do with that, because I think it is actually legitimately like dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, she finds him pretty quickly, which is quite good.
Yeah.
But that whole thing, you know, watching the pin come out of the playpen and the lock coming undone, more ghostly activities. There's definitely something going awry in this house.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Sam and Dean go back there, and they've taken Missouri with them this time. And it's a bit more difficult this time to like gain entrance to the house, and I think this is a bit more realistic.
Yeah.
Because you know, these guys who were in your house, I don't know, a day or two ago, have suddenly rocked up with this like strange lady as well. Like, oh yeah, can we have another look around? You know, no reason. But obviously Missouri's like, she seems to be very like intuitive of people, probably because of her psychic powers. So she kind of just tells him the truth. Like, you know, there's something going on. We're here to help you with it, and we'll get it sorted. Which, I mean, definitely that house is being haunted, and it's very obvious. So I feel like she probably would welcome the help.
Mm-hmm. So they start walking around the house, and they end up in Sam's old room or nursery.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because Sam doesn't know. Like, 'cause Missouri says, oh, this is definitely where something is. Like, this is the strongest feeling. And Sam's like, why is that the case? And he's like, well, this used to be your nursery. And like, his reaction's kind of, it's a little touching as well. Like, oh, wow.
It's hard because he must not have any emotional tie to this house because he was just a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, to come back and see it. And so like, Dean gets out his like EMF detector. Missouri calls him an amateur, which again, like, stop picking on Dean. But she does say that this is not the same thing as when Mary died. Like, this is definitely something different. Mm-hmm. And there's probably more than one spirit as well. And she even says the word poltergeist. Mm-hmm. So so we kind of know that you know, Sam's whole storyline isn't going to be resolved here. Then, is it? It's a different thing that seems to be haunting this house.
I think it's a little upsetting for them. Obviously, they thought this whole journey could be over. Though, I mean, at the same time, do they really think it was going to be that easy? Like, had you think that they would spend all this time, going all across the country to only have to come back to their house to figure it all out? Like, do you think like John wouldn't have made that connection sooner? You know, like, I mean, I said here as well, Dean is very determined to save Jenny and her kids. I think he says like, no one else is dying in this house. Like, he's like laser focused. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So they go back to Missouri's house, and they're putting together, I guess, we don't know what it is, but I guess maybe in later seasons we could say these are like hex bags. I don't know.
I would guess the same thing. They look very much like a hex bag, like the cloth like container and like all the herbs and stuff. I thought it was funny that like Dean and food, he has to put something in his mouth. I was like, why would you do that?
Was the thing that he put in his mouth the Crossroads dirt? Because
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I'm hoping it was a spice, to be honest.
Yeah, the root,
yeah, not dirt. Which I thought was it was interesting. Like the mention of a crossroads
Yeah.
in this, because obviously that actually becomes very pivotal in for the next, I would say 8 to 9 seasons at least.
Yeah. Whew.
How many times did they end up going to a crossroads?
Establishing here that crossroads are in fact mystical in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, the plan is very simple. They're going to make these hex bags, and then they're going to put them in the compass points of the house on each level. They have to knock holes in the walls to do it, and then hopefully that should purify the house.
Yeah. And so they're purifying the house because she was explaining that whatever was in the house when Mary died was so evil that it left scars, and the way she says is, and these scars can get infected.
They're here because of what happened to your family. You see, all those years ago, real evil came to you. It walked this house. That kind of evil leaves wounds, and sometimes wounds get infected.
Really interesting. I don't know. I think they do revisit this later on. I was going to say they don't, but I think they do, where something really bad has happened somewhere and it attracts ghosts and things. I think that definitely does come up again.
Yeah, I mean, so I think is even in the next episode, Asylum. I think that's what the basis of it is.
Yeah.
So I guess it carried on that theme in just a larger space. They go back to the house. Jenny and the kids are coming out, and she asks, how long is this going to take, basically, and she's like, Missouri tells her, just go to the movies. By the time we get back, this is all going to be sorted. Mm-hmm. So they go into the house. They start. So, okay, this is where I wasn't really sure. Are they starting or are they finishing? Because Missouri does mention that, when the ghosts figure out what they're trying to do, because they have to put these hex bags in northwest, south, and east of each level of each corner of each level. So they're each taking a level, so they have to do it 4 times on each floor. So
yeah, I think what they're showing is the last one that they're each putting in.
Yeah. Okay.
Because stuff goes down.
Yeah. Right. So we see. I'm not sure who we see first. I think it's Sam.
Yeah. So we see Sam first, and I just put what everyone's holding as well. So Sam has a hammer to knock holes in the walls, and while he's doing that, we kind of see a plug socket unplug and move from the wall, and the lamp moves in the distance, and it's ooh, that's setting up to be something. And then we cut to Dean in the kitchen, who has an axe. Yeah. And there's just things moving in the background, like chairs and stuff. And Missouri's in the basement. I can't remember what she had, but she gets trapped by a dresser very quickly. I think she managed to put the hex bag in, and then a thing slides toward her and traps her. So Dean then gets a knife thrown at him, and
terrifying.
Yeah, he kind of has to hide under a table, and then the typical thing happens where a knife gets thrown at the table, and you hear it hit it,
and it comes through a little bit too, right?
Yeah. And so then we go back to Sam, who's being strangled by the big cord of a lamp.
Yeah. Well, so he turns around quickly because obviously the lamp falls on the floor.
Yeah.
Which is probably the only indication that he knew something was happening. Mm-hmm. So everybody else has managed to make a hole in the wall, put their hex bags in, but Sam never managed to actually make the hole.
Yes, exactly.
So he's being strangled by this wire, and Dean is sort of obviously going to be checking out everything, and runs to Sam, is trying to pull this cable off. It's all does he doesn't.
So he sees him being strangled, and he kind of tries to help him, realizes that it's not kind of working, so leaves him to put the last hex bag in, and there's a big bright light.
He just kicks the wall.
Yeah, just kicks it in. But then he manages to get the cord off of Sam, and they share a bro hug.
Definitely.
Yeah, because he was fully being strangled by this lamp cord, and Dean definitely couldn't get it off of him. It was too strong. So yeah, good quick thinking there, I guess, and glad it worked, because what they had done if those hex bags wouldn't have worked. Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, that would not have been good. So the family come back to the house and like say, oh, it's all over now, and they start to leave, but like Sam is not convinced. He's got this inkling that like something's not right, but they're still leaving. It then cuts to Jenny, and she's in bed, I guess, reading something.
I think she's just like getting ready for bed. Yeah,
or looking at something. And so that's when I noticed that she was wearing what she was wearing in the very beginning, like in Sam's premonition.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I was like, oh, okay, this is it. Was gonna, and so she turns the light off, and then she lies down, and the bed starts violently shaking,
like really violently shaking as well. Really,
like not your, this might be an earthquake shake. No, this is. I wonder how they did this. Like, if they like
you just get two guys on the side of the bed, like, surely, right? I don't think it's.
Well, I don't know, because it looks like a heavy bed. Like it's not light.
Just get you know.
yeah, you're probably right. Yes, that's true. So they're violently shaking this bed.
Yeah.
And then we actually cut to Sam and Dean outside, and they're talking, like Sam's saying, "This doesn't feel right. There's something going on."
He has a bad feeling about this, which is a very slight Star Wars reference. I don't know if it actually counts.
I think that's a very common line for any sort of bad situation, to be honest. And we see Jenny in the window, as we did in Sam's nightmare.
Yes, exactly the same scene. Yeah, so Dean says, like, Sam, go grab the kids, I'll get Jenny. Then we start to see, like, a fiery figure appear in Sari's room, and all the doors are, like, locking as they're kind of running through the house. I thought Dean kicks through the door to get to Jenny. Nice.
This felt like the bathroom scene in Dead in the War.
Yes, exactly exactly the same kind of kick.
Yeah. So was the fire in Sari's room, or was it in?
Yeah, no,
it was. It was. Yeah.
So it's in the same place in the closet. So when Sam goes to pick her up, he sees it.
Yeah, that's right. For some reason I thought he was picking up Richie, but yeah, she's just because the way that he like carries his two kids. I was like, practice for when you're a parent, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And then he takes both the kids down to the bottom of the stairs, and he says the line.
Thing.
All right, Sari, take your brother outside as fast as you can, and don't look back.
He says the thing.
He says the thing. I wrote that. I said Sam wrote the thing. Said the thing. Oh.
Exactly the same as well. Exactly the same.
So okay. Before we move on,
okay.
Do you think it was because of his psychic ability that he managed to repeat that?
Yeah, because
he never heard that. He did not hear what John said. Obviously, he obviously did, because he was a baby. There's no way he could remember that. There's no way that like you can retain that information. So, do you think it was like Mary telling Sam?
I do think this. I think that's completely true. I think he was picking up on the psychic energy of the house, or maybe the energy given off by Mary, and that's why those words came out of his mouth. Like, yeah, so good.
Yes. Well, good moment. I like it very much.
So Dean's taken everyone out. Like, Jenny's out, the kids come running out, and then Sam gets dragged into the kitchen, and we see the door slam shut, and I put, there's a dramatic zoom into the front door slamming.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, because kind of Dean watches it, and it's a very big zoom into the door as it slams shut and like traps Sam inside. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Dean takes an axe to the door.
He does, yeah. So he goes to the trunk first, and he grabs like some shotgun, some salt, and an axe, and then you kind of see him running back, and it's very like shining.
Mm-hmm.
Through the door.
It really is.
While like Sam's getting thrown around a lot.
Mm-hmm. Then we see Sam's being like pinned against the wall by something, and then this flame person, like this person who's on fire, starts walking into the kitchen just ever so calmly.
Yeah.
And Dean manages to get the lower half of the door open and starts running in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I can really describe this because this made me really like.
So yeah, so Sam's pinned against the wall. Dean's just managed to break his way through, and he goes and stands in front of Sam and goes to shoot this fiery figure. And Sam shouts like, "No, I know who it is."
No, he doesn't say he. He says, "I know who she is."
No! What? Why? Because I know who it is. I can see her now.
Does he? Well,
Yeah.
I had the subtitles on as well.
And I was just like,
Oh. So spoilers, but I mean, come on, you watch the episode. It's Mary Winchester.
Yep, it's Mary.
She kind of appears at this fire, and it cuts to Dean's face, and I said his hands holding the shotgun as he lowers it are shaking.
Oh, I got tingles. Oh, I got legit tingles. Oh my goodness, I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Go back and watch.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to.
to.
Oh my goodness.
So she walks to Dean first and just like says his name, and I was like, oh.
Mom.
Dean.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she walks to Sam, and like they're both crying. It's very teary. This is a very teary scene. Everyone's crying.
Yeah.
And she says to Sam, "I'm sorry," but I put like she doesn't say what for.
Sam. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a few things she could be sorry for.
Yeah.
Is she sorry for dying? Is she sorry that his girlfriend died? Now, big meta.
Yes.
Is she sorry for making the deal in the first place?
I wrote the exact same thing.
But
Okay, so we might be on the same wavelength on this one.
Yeah, you go for it.
Because when we get this backstory, Kripke has left. He's left the show at this point.
Exactly.
So I don't know if, like, he had, like, a backstory kind of already written somewhere or something.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely this moment is knowledge is a curse because we don't know what she's sorry for because she doesn't say.
Yeah.
Now, that could have been, again, on purpose by Kripke just to, like, have it open-ended and, like, be able to play off of it later in any way possible. Like, but definitely, like, for me, I read this sorry as the making the deal in the first place.
Yeah. I think in the context of the whole storyline, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the context of this episode, if you were watching it for the first time, it mirrors Missouri saying, "Oh, I'm sorry" to Sam about everything that he's going through.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It makes... The perfect thing is it does make sense in the big storyline, so...
It does.
I'm happy for it.
Yeah.
So she doesn't say anything else. She just turns and she kind of shouts at the ceiling and tells this other entity to leave and let go of Sam.
Mm-hmm. And get out of my house.
Yeah, get out of her house. Oh. And I said she turns back into fire.
Mm-hmm.
And another very Jensen Ackles acting moment here. Did you see him quietly mouth the word like "Mom" as she turns back into fire?
I did not.
There's so many little moments here that he's just bravo, all the awards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did say I almost missed it. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they did it. The entity's gone from the house. Like, Mary has like purged it, because the next shot that we see is Dean looking through the photos from that box, and he's looking at a photo of him and Sam. This box of photos we do see again, but not until season 11. So I guess it's implied that they have been carrying this box around with them for a long time after this episode.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's actually kind of interesting.
We see Sam looking through it, I think, in the bunker.
Oh, I mean, they probably have some kind of storage somewhere. Like they must do. Like,
yeah.
So Missouri's back at the house with them, just sort of to give the house a once over to make sure that like nothing is there.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that the spirits have gone, and then they ask if Mary is still there, and she says no. She like destroyed herself to rid them of the poltergeist,
Yeah.
which was really sad.
Yeah.
Because clearly, like they had a moment with their mum, and it's just like now they can never have that again.
Yeah.
And then they drive off, and I was like, I wrote here they didn't fix the door. Like it's the next morning, and they probably gave her some money, and like because earlier when after the first poltergeist attack, like the kitchen's completely wrecked.
Yeah.
And Missouri tells Dean to clean it up, and that and Sam says that they'll pay for it, and so they probably paid for the door too. I mean, they would have to pay for the door.
I mean, they must have cleaned the house though, because it was clean when they went back again. So they must have stayed that night. Mop and bucket.
Yep.
Yeah. So normally they drive off and that would be the end of the episode, but not this episode.
Not this episode. We get our favourite TV dad.
You sound so mad about it.
Yes. Yes. I'm not happy about it. So Missouri walks back into her house, and she's like sort of, it seems like she's just talking to the air, because she says like, with Sam's great abilities, you would think that he would be able to sense his dad here. And I was like, what? And there he is, just sat on the sofa.
Being a useless dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he sat there feeling sorry for himself. So I'm really angry about John Winchester.
Me
sat
too.
There feeling sorry for himself. He definitely could have helped here. Like,
okay,
yeah.
So we each have a turn with why we don't like John Winchester at this
go
point.
for it. Yeah.
Okay, so he is sat on this couch and tells Missouri that he couldn't help because he doesn't know what's going. He can't see them until he's figured it out. Bitch, please. You dragged your kids around the country trying to figure your life out because of this, and yet now that they're old enough to help, you're not going to ask for their help. You're going to put them through distress because you cannot find the answers. No, like this makes me so mad. You can tell by my tone of voice that just completely changed, but like you changed their lives for your revenge, and is now like your oldest son's revenge, and you're not giving them what they need. You are selfishly trying to fix this, and your pattern of behavior is what sets off the rest of this fucking show. So that's my soapbox moment. Take it away.
Okay, so my problem with the scene is that he's definitely only there because he would have heard Dean's messages, which means that he's been listening to them this whole time and deciding not to go help them. So I guess the message that he sent this time was, I don't know, needed him enough for him to show up, if not help out. But I feel like he only showed up because he thought that this maybe was a lead in the case for what killed Mary. But there's so much that he's keeping from them because he knows way more at this point than they do. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is. Is he trying to protect them, or does he not think that they're capable of helping out, or just going to get in the way, or
well, so it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. Like, especially Dean.
Yeah.
Like, Sam, I would understand if he had reservations for, because Sam hasn't been a hunter for 4 years, and obviously he needs to get his skills back up. But Dean has always been in the life. He has been working for as long as basically as long as he has, as long as John has.
Yeah. And
yet he turns around and is like trying to protect them now. Mm-hmm. I mean, with hindsight, yeah, kind of, but like in the end it doesn't help them.
No. Like having all the information, I don't think is ever going to be like a detriment to them. You know, I think if they'd had more information in the beginning, like a lot of things that like happen later on wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So-
and like this is where the self-sacrifice stuff starts happening.
Oh, yeah.
This is where it starts. And like why they don't share secrets, why they do everything, it's because of this bell end.
the communication is so poor in this family.
Yeah.
Like, so
I mean, I know I'm angry about it, but like, and this show wouldn't exist without it, so you know, it has to be in it. But it does make me so mad.
yeah. The thing is, like, yeah, poor communication unfortunately seems to make good storylines. I'm sure there's a way to do it where you can have good communications and still have good storylines.
Yeah.
But I mean,
because are we supposed to root for John? That's what I don't know. Are we supposed to be on John's side for any of this? Or are we supposed to be on their side?
After the speech in the last episode where Sam's like, oh, well, I need to apologise to him. For what? For what?
Yes.
Because, like, yeah, the last episode was, like, they were working through their feelings towards John and you know, Sam was very angry at him and Dean was very much on his side, and then it kind of got to the end and Sam was like, oh, no, I can kind of see it from your point of view that, like, Dad was doing the best he could. Well, no.
Yeah.
Because throughout this episode is little things peppered in where, like we're saying, he didn't deal with the death of his wife well at all.
No.
And probably should have got some help that he didn't get. And and he's just passing those issues of repression and poor communication onto his kids. Yeah. Again, wouldn't be Supernatural without emotional
all this. Yeah.
but like it is frustrating because you're just like, please just talk to each other. Like, just get it out. And 15 years of this.
Yeah. So I do have another rant about this episode, or rather the character.
Yeah.
Of Missouri Mosley. So we looked it up a little bit because I had a feeling that she gets killed, and she does. She does get killed off, but in season 13, and so this is I have a few problems with this. This show is problematic, as we all know. This one in particular kind of rubs me the wrong way because yes, she left to do Grey's Anatomy, but she's not in any other episode. She's mentioned in another episode in season 7, but she doesn't actually appear until the episode that she dies.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, the Supernatural does this a lot, where they sort of bring back old characters just to kill them.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary. Like, if they never brought her back, nobody would have said anything. Like, I mean, obviously we weren't quite as embroiled in the community when this was going on, and like, but I don't feel like there was a call for her to come back. And like I know sometimes everybody points out like big plot holes, like, where's Adam? Adam's still in the hole, kind of thing. Like, when Bobby gets introduced, that's like their go-to for information.
Yeah.
So it's okay that like she never comes back, in my opinion. So just to bring her back just to kill her,
it's so unnecessary. I was looking at that episode and I actually remember the episode, and I do remember thinking at the time, like, I was like, it's Missouri. That's a blast from the past. And then she dies pretty like early on. It's just, why? Like, there's no need to bring back these characters who, like, people, not just in the show, but in sort of like meta and fan fiction, they build lives for these characters and like imagine, like, you know, what they'd be up to because she only appears in one episode. So I would say like Missouri was a you know, one of these sort of fan favorite like characters. People did like her. So to bring her back and then just kill her off is, it's
disrespectful.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm trying to think. I kind of remember the episode, but not very clearly. So the Wraith is targeting psychics, and I can't remember the overall plotline of season 13.
Yeah.
Whether it was like there was a reason for this, like, was it like trying to balance out something? Because even then, though, they could have brought in like a psychic. They do this all the time. They just bring in like it didn't have to be someone that we knew.
Yeah. And also, I don't think that they had to necessarily kill her off. I think there are other ways. There are other ways for characters to be in danger without them being killed, if that makes sense, and to make it still a compelling like plot line. Especially, I mean, we're talking about season 13 here, where this show has been repeatedly called out for killing off female characters, like characters who are people of colour. So then to bring a character back who is a woman of colour and kill her off, and you're thinking, well, this was only 2 years ago. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It made me annoyed.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to season 13 one day. We're talking like 4 or 5 years from now. And I'm sure we'll have another rant about it then. But yeah, I did think Missouri was a bigger deal to the plot than she was. I really thought she had appeared in more than one episode. Like, I honestly, truly believed that. And yeah, I was surprised. I found that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's mentioned more. I don't know.
But I don't know. It was unnecessary for her to be killed off in such a late part of the whole series as a whole. So
yeah. I agree with you. Huh.
Well, so that was this week's episode of Home.
So overall, what did you think of this episode then, Annabelle?
I did really enjoy it. It was really nice to see, like, it was good to see, like, the communication between brothers kind of be elevated a little bit. Obviously there was still a little bit of secret holding, but at least, like, now Dean knows about Sam's premonitions and, like, part of his psychic abilities. So, okay, kind of going back a little bit, we have like a close-up of Sam's hand when he's like being sort of pushed up against the wall by the poltergeist before Mary gets there. Do you think he's trying to use his psychic abilities on something?
Oh, good question. I read it as just like he was pushing against the wall, but maybe like some kind of innate instinct, like to try and push back against that force. Yeah.
So, because obviously he's not. I don't know if he's aware of that just yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like that doesn't get spoken about for a good minute.
That's what I was thinking. Like, when does Sam's like psychic abilities get brought up again? I don't know if it's anytime soon. Like, surely he should be trying to use them all the time. Like,
yeah,
you know, X-Men style. I definitely would if I found out I had psychic abilities. Be trying to like move a cup across a desk or something. Maybe it does. Maybe it gets brought up more.
I'm not sure. So next week's episode will be Asylum.
Yes. So I kind of remember this episode. Kind of.
I mean, I think it's very much like your standard ghost hunting setup. Like it's in the name. It's an asylum.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't really remember this episode too much either. I don't know. Well, I don't think it's gonna be as plot heavy as this one. I feel like Supernatural has a tendency to, like, when it gets really heavy like this, the next episode is like completely irrelevant.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a break, and like you don't want one.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's those 22 episode series. Like, you know.
Yeah, this is it. Like. Yeah, I want the next episode to be like fully them discussing this, but it won't be.
No. Well, looks like we're still stuck in purgatory. If anything, we've kind of just taken a couple steps backwards. Hopefully next week we can find that exit.
Thanks.
Bye.